Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women of Family, Home, and Social Sciences. Today, joining us for our series is Alissa. Welcome, Alissa.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. I am really interested about hearing your story, how you got to where you are today and what what has impacted you to be where you are today.
Yeah. Yeah. So I graduated from BYU with a degree in history in 2001. And then I went to medical school and did a residency to become a pediatrician. So that's what I am doing now. And I work 2 days a week where I am in the office taking care of other people's kids. And then the rest of the time I'm at home taking care of my kids. And it kind of took me a long time to get here, but I feel like I'm really happy with where I am and really grateful for the opportunities that I've had.
Oh, that is so awesome. I'm really glad that you have gotten to a point in, this point in your life where you're happy with what you've accomplished. And it sounds like you have a good balance between like your home and work life, which we can talk about more later. But I just wanted to ask about um, the decision that you made to become a doctor. I noticed that you studied history. I'm also studying history. So that's really great that you studied that for your undergrad. And I feel like it's kind of not typical to not have like a
Mhm.
STEM focused degree if you want to go into the medical field. So could
Mhm.
you just maybe tell me a little more about why you chose history, but also went into the medical field?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a longer kind of story, but I thought that I maybe wanted to go into medicine when I got to
Mm-hmm.
BYU. And when I got there, I realized that science classes were really hard for me. Well, I had always known that they weren't as easy for me as the like language arts and history type classes were. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got to BYU, I realized how many science classes you had to take to go to medical school. And
Yeah.
it just seemed really, really overwhelming. And so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. It felt like it was going to be too hard. And so I took a class at BYU, and I don't know what it was called, but basically, what do you want to be when you grow up? And
Mm-hmm.
helps you figure out your major and figure out all of those things. And I took that as a freshman. And I went through and I went back and forth and tried to decide what I should do. And I decided I'm going to be a social worker. I'm going to major in history and I'm going to be a social worker. I can still help people and still use, I can still interact with people and use some of my gifts of just enjoying people and liking people, but I don't have to take all of the science courses, which sounded daunting to me. And we had to write a paper for this class. The kind of the final paper was, what are you going to major in? What are you going to do? So I wrote this paper and I wrote my plan. And that day that I turned it in was a Tuesday. And I hadn't turned it in, but I wrote the paper. And it was a Tuesday and it was devotional that day. And I was going to just go to the fishbowl. I don't know. Do people call it that anymore? Probably
Is
not.
that's the Benson building, right?
Yeah.
The chemistry. Yeah,
Right.
okay. Yeah, I think we do call it the fishbowl. Yeah.
So I was just going to go there and watch devotional over there. And I just felt this pull to go to the Marriott Center. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, it's already started. I'm going to be late. It's such a far walk. And I literally was like, turn this way. No, turn this way. No, like back and forth. Like, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, fine, I'll go to the Marriott Center. So I went to the Marriott Center and President Irene was speaking. And he talked about, I don't even remember what he talked about, but I know when he was talking, I had this overwhelming sense of, you need to go into medicine. That, like, you made the wrong choice. Sorry, I let you pick and you did it wrong. And I thought, like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I was just making that up. I don't know. And then later in the talk, Elder Eyring said something to the effect of, God has told you what you need to do today. I had tears streaming down my face. I was like, okay, God, if this is what you want me to do, I'll do it. I have no idea how I'm going to get through all these classes, but I'll do it. And So I thought, okay, well, I can at least keep a history major because that can have some classes that can keep me sane. But
Yeah.
I'm taking organic chemistry and physics and all of these other classes that just felt really, really hard to me.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was my decision. And I did it. I really loved my history classes. I took one a semester until I got through all of my science classes and my MCAT and was able to apply for medical school. And then my fourth year, I took almost primarily just history classes once I
Yeah.
was into medical school and was able to just focus. And my fourth year, my final year was really, really fun. I was really happy to be able to take all of the classes that I liked. And I didn't do amazingly well in all of my science classes, but I did well enough. I passed everything. I did fine. And I made it into the medical school that I wanted to go to. And I didn't realize this until a few years ago. A local young women's group asked me to speak to them just so they could see some women who were having careers. And they asked me about this journey. And I recognized as I was saying it that in my day-to-day career right now, I don't use all of that much hard science, right? Like I don't have to remember the Krebs cycle and all of these crazy things that you have to learn. But I do have to be able to interact with people and care about people and connect with them. And those are the things that I'm much better at that come naturally to me. And I recognize that God knew that all along. He knew what I would need to become a great pediatrician. And he could really see the end from the beginning, even when I couldn't. And it took me, I don't know, I think 15 years to kind of see all those puzzle pieces fitting into place and seeing his hand really guiding me through the whole thing. So
Yeah.
how I got to where I am.
Wow. That is like a really beautiful process. I think it's amazing that, you started off thinking you were going to do one thing, but then later on through divine intervention, maybe you could say, you realize that like there's another path for you and it all worked out. And I think it's also good to hear from you that, sometimes, the place where you end up, that journey that you have to take doesn't always look like everybody else's journey.
Right.
My husband's father is also a dermatologist, and it was really interesting to me when I heard about his story because he decided to study humanities. I think that was his degree. But he was like you, where he took the humanities classes and then took all the science classes that he needed, and it worked out. And so I think it's a good reminder for people that they can also incorporate other things that they like, as long as, in the end, it works out for medical school, because obviously it's really hard. But I think it's a good reminder for maybe some people who are maybe on the edge of, medical school or not medical school. So that is really awesome. So thank you for sharing that story. I really appreciated that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. As a kind of a follow-up question to that, you talked a little bit about, well, actually a lot about how God helped you through figuring out what you wanted to do and what you needed to do. How else has your faith played a role throughout your life or like in your career, that sort of thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely kind of getting started was a huge one, but also all along the way, there were lots of times when I didn't know what it was going to look like. I remember when I was dating my current husband, he said, well, are you going to have kids? Who's going to raise them? What is that going to, how are you going to do that? And I remember thinking, I don't know. I have no idea how this is going to work, but I know that God knows and that he can help me figure it out. And I think just having that faith in him was everything to be able to hold on, because there were so many times where it was just hard, right? Like medical school is really hard. I have a friend right now whose daughter is going through medical school, and it's been tough. And I remember that in our third year, where you just spend 80 hours a week in the hospital and you're really, really busy, I
Yeah.
remember I used to play this game where I would, in my head, just on rounds, like, would I trade places with the person in the bed, the patient? And some days I'd be like, yes, I would. You just have a little pneumonia. You get to watch TV and read magazines, and people bring you stuff all day long.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But so there were times where it was just really hard. And if I didn't have that confidence that God was going to help me through it, I think there was no way I could have done it, because I don't know that I would have had enough trust in my own abilities to be able to carry through. And so it was really great to have that, that to fall back on. And then just 1,000 little, moments in every day where you're taking care of a patient and not sure the right thing to say, or trying to remember something and not quite sure what it is, and having him in your life from that moment to moment makes all the difference.
Yeah, totally. I really liked what you said about how, you're talking to your husband and he's like, how are you going to do all of these things? And you said, I don't know, but God knows. And that really resonated with me, because I think from a college student perspective, it can be really daunting, at least for me, to try to look into my future and be like, well, there's all these things that I want to do and want to aspire to be, but how am I going to do it all? For myself, I have aspirations to have a career, but also be a mother. And sometimes it's like, how am I going to do it all? Because both are going to be extremely busy. But what you said is a really good reminder that, God is leading the way. And if you feel inspired to do certain things, then you should have faith in God that he'll help you. And so thank you for sharing that as well. I just think God is always should be in the forefront of our minds, because he knows what we need to do, and he'll show us the way. So that's
absolutely.
really fantastic. Yeah. Speaking of trying to figure out how to do everything, I would really love to hear more about the balance that you have between being a mother, but also being a professional. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I think I want to start by saying I think this looks different for everyone, right? There's not one right way to do it. So I'll share my story, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the way that it will work for other people. But for me, I didn't have children until I was in my final year of residency. So I graduated from college, and then I had 4 years of medical school and 3 years of residency. And so I got pregnant in my final year of residency. And I think that was a little bit of a sacrifice, just that I was older when I started having kids. And so I don't know what life would have looked like otherwise, but I may have had more kids than I do. I have 3 girls, and they're wonderful, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy with it. But I think that is one of the sacrifices. There's one of my favorite mentors once told me in medical school, you can be mom of the year and you can be doctor of the year, but they can't be in the same year. And, you just can't do everything. So you kind of have to pick and choose. And so for me, I feel really grateful to be in a position where I'm able to have people help me out with my kids. So I'm gone 2 days a week, and I have wonderful young girls. I mean, I guess they're not that young. They seem young to me, but in their 20s. And sometimes other people, we've had lots of different nannies come into our home and help with our girls. And it's been great. And one of the things that I've done that I really highly recommend, if anybody is able to, is to get as much help as you can with the things that don't matter. So I've been able to have my nannies help with laundry and cooking and all those things that really anybody can do, so that when I'm at home, I'm more able to focus on being a mom and have a little bit more energy to put to that. Because there have been times where we haven't had a nanny, and I come home and it's a lot, and I know that it's a privilege to be able to have help so that when I come home, I can really be more focused on being a mom. And when I'm at work, I can really focus on being a doctor. And I know if one of the kids gets sick at school or something happens, I've got someone who can help take care of it.
I think like you're right. You know, your reality may not work for another person's reality. You know, they might have to find a different way to balance their family life and their professional life, or whatever else they have going on. But what I think you made an important point is it is okay to ask for help. Sometimes I'm not a mother, but, and this might be not a great statement to say, but sometimes I wonder if mothers feel like they need to do it all. And, you know, they need to, you know, cook dinner and do the laundry and clean and take care of the kids and do all of their other responsibilities. But I think it is important to ask for help, whether that's from, you know, your spouse and make it more of a partnership, or, you know, if you have the resources to, you know, hire help, then I don't think there's any shame in that. And so I think that can be really important for, you know, women as they're moving forward in their life, that if they need help, just ask. There's people to help. And I really like how, you know, you used the help that you had so that you could focus on what really matters, which was like your children. And I really love that, because I think, you know, in life in general, I think it's so easy to get caught up in all of the little things and all like the to-do list, but it's important to also focus on what matters. So it sounds like you've gotten that down really, really well. So
it's always a work in progress. Every day is a new day, but still I feel like finally we're in a pretty good groove.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And so I just have another question for you. So looking back on your life, what have been some of the benefits you have received, whether it's been personally, professionally, or otherwise, from your working experience?
Yeah. So I feel really lucky to have a job that I truly enjoy. I love going to work, and that is, I think, a gift. And it's really great to be able to kind of fill my soul intellectually and emotionally and spiritually and all those things, to be able to have a little bit of an outlet outside of the home, to be able to kind of remember who I am as a person and develop my talents and my gifts and, you know, serve others. Serving your family is wonderful and really important, but sometimes it's fun to be able to kind of get outside of your family circle. So I've really enjoyed that. And then I do feel like it's been nice that my skill set can translate into my mothering. I have, you know, a little bit more knowledge than the average person when my kids get sick. And it actually became really helpful. My daughter, when she was 5, I recognized that she had type 1 diabetes while we were on vacation. And I was able to see a few of the signs and piece things together to realize that something was going on, and were able to get her diagnosed and taken care of before there were any complications from it. And that's a diagnosis that if you don't make quickly, it can have a negative outcome. And so we were really grateful that I had a little bit of extra knowledge to be able to recognize what was going on. And then with diabetes, it's just been nice to have a little bit more background and knowledge as we're taking care of it every day too. Although I feel like now my mothering diabetes knowledge has surpassed my pediatric diabetes knowledge.
No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. And then another thing, I think it's nice to have a skill that you're able to share with people. And it's great for me to be able to help my friends with their kids. It's like, oh, my child isn't tolerating this formula. What should I do? She's spitting up all the time. And it's great for them to share their gifts with me. And I love that what I've learned to do is somewhat helpful.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I really liked what you said about kind of at the beginning when you talked about how, you know, there's so many great things about being a mother and being able to serve your family, but there's also other ways to develop yourself as a person
Yeah.
and serve other people. And I think that's kind of the message that we're trying to share with
Mhm.
the women in our college, is that um, it's important to like develop yourself as a person,
Yeah.
and you should go after whatever you want to do, whether that's being a stay-at-home mom or having a part-time career or having a full-time career.
Mhm.
It's just about developing yourself as a person and becoming who you are meant to become,
Yeah.
um, and do the things that you're meant to do. So I really liked that you shared that, and it's great that you are also able to like serve other people like outside of your workspace. You talked about giving people advice, your neighbors if they need it. I'm sure that saves them a lot of like trips to the doctor, so which helps with time probably. So I think that's really fantastic. Um, with that, what skills do you find yourself using the most in your role, whether as like a mother or as a professional?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good segue into kind of what I was just talking about. I think
Yeah.
most of the people that I associate with right now are mothers and have
Hmm.
children. And so it's really great because I learn a lot from when I'm just talking to friends. And I think people are more willing to open up to me because
Yeah.
of my background. And so people are always asking me questions and I'm
Yeah.
learning from them. So I'm learning a little bit more deeply and intimately about patients because
Yeah.
they're willing to share more with a friend than they would be willing to share with, a random physician that they don't
Yeah.
know. Um, and then it's nice for me to be able to kind of pass some of my knowledge back to
Hmm.
them for, just everyday life, whether it's mental health issues or first aid types of
Hmm.
things. I think my favorite was, this is, you can decide whether you want to keep this story in
Okay.
or not. But I got a call one time from a family in my ward, and the husband was putting in sod, and he hit some rebar with his leg, and it just
Oof.
split open.
Oh, ouchie.
And the elders quorum was coming over to help him finish putting in sod, and he was
Hmm.
this wonderful man who said, I cannot sit on the corner while everyone else is putting in my lawn, and so I've got to
Hmm.
get this thing stitched up. It just won't stop bleeding. And
Yeah.
I had some rudimentary supplies at home, and so they called me, and I went over, and on his front porch we were spraying, cleaning it out as much as we
Oh,
could and
yeah.
using a needle. And I didn't have all of the right tools and it wasn't perfect, but we got it done to the point where it
Uh-huh.
stopped bleeding and he was able
Wow.
to get his lawn in.
Hmm.
And the scar wasn't going to be pretty, but he didn't care.
Yeah, he just wanted to get his lawn done,
He just
so.
wanted to get his lawn done and didn't have time, and he didn't have an insurance and so wasn't able to go to the hospital. And
Yeah.
so things like that, I think it's useful it's kind of just fun to have a skill
Yeah.
where you can help people in a meaningful way.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like, obviously you use your skills in the office, but there are times in your life where things are not as expected and you can be there to help other people, which
Yeah.
is probably very, like, I'm sure that people really appreciate what you do. So that's
Yeah.
really
And
great.
then I was also going to say, I think in the office, probably the most important skill that I have had to develop and is
Hmm.
just being able to really listen to people and
Yeah.
understand what they're trying
Yeah.
to say. Um, and I think sometimes we want to form opinions or conclusions about whatever we're seeing in front of
Hmm.
us without seeing and gathering all of the information.
Hmm.
And I think in medicine and in life, that's a really important skill to be able to
Yeah.
stay quiet for long enough to listen and hear the whole story and gather it all in, and then be able to, make decisions and help people. So that's probably one of the most important skills that I've had to really fine tune.
Yeah, that's really great. I was also going to say that I'm sure that skill of listening and really listening can be applied in so many different situations,
Yeah.
whether it's in your office or with your family or with friends or at church, wherever you may be. And so it's great that you found you have those skills to use wherever you are. So
Well, still, I'm working on them still, but
yeah,
developing them.
yeah, we're all working on it. So yeah. Well, this has been a really fantastic conversation. I've been really inspired by the things that you have said. I just wanted to ask you one more question, if that's okay.
Sure.
Is there any other advice that you would give to the women of family, home, and social sciences? Any like pieces of information that they think they should know?
I think I've been lucky to have grown up in an environment where I've never felt less than because of my gender.
Yeah.
And I grew up with a family that was a family of 3 girls, but I always felt very much equal to. And in my school experience, I also I never felt less than. And I think some of that is just because of your mindset going into things. Eleanor Roosevelt said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Yeah.
And I think if you know that you are a daughter of God and you are 100% equal, then you don't have any reason to feel less than a male counterpart. And if someone wants to make you feel like you're not quite as good, then that's probably their problem, not yours.
Yeah.
And so I think if you can really internalize your self-worth as a human rather than, and a child of God rather than a male or a female, just makes life a little bit easier and cuts out some of the heartache, because I think, unfortunately, there are people in our society who don't value men and women equally. But if you can know in your soul that that's their problem, not yours, you don't really have to deal with it.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think, having that confidence and knowing your self-worth can help you in situations where maybe you're not treated equally, or it can just help others also like feed off that confidence and make a good experience for everyone involved. And that's something I could remember myself too. Sometimes it's hard to be confident and know you're capable of doing the things that you can. And so, and I really love that you brought it back to kind of the center of our lives is God and our worth with God. And so I think that is something to remember often, is remember that we are children of God, we are daughters of God, and we can do what He wants us to do. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for meeting with me tonight.
Of course.
I think what you said is going to be so useful. I'm so excited to put it on our website. But I think we've gone over everything that we needed to. Great. So perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, you too.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.